Geezer Butler has never been the kind of musician to chase the spotlight. But one quiet comment he made recently has the entire metal community buzzing. When asked about his future in music, he didn't give a straight answer. Instead, he dropped a cryptic line that felt more like a spark being lit. "I'm always writing. I'm always playing. Whatever happens, happens." Coming from the man who helped shape heavy metal from the ground up, that wasn't just casual talk. It was a hint, subtle but impossible to ignore. And considering everything he's lived through with Black Sabbath, the losses, the reunions, the fractures, and the final farewells, those few words might mean that Geezer isn't done telling his story just yet. The setting. The moment came at a place you wouldn't normally expect major news to drop, a celebrity bowling party. But this wasn't just any event. It was Bowl for Ronnie, the annual fundraiser honoring Ronnie James Dio and supporting the fight against cancer. The room was filled with musicians, fans, and industry legends, all there for a cause that clearly meant something to Geezer. In the middle of the noise, the laughter, and the clatter of bowling pins, he was pulled aside for a quick interview. And it was there, in this unexpectedly emotional setting, surrounded by memories of a man he once shared a stage with, that he opened up just a little. The charity, the nostalgia, the reminder of old friends, it all set the tone. This wasn't a media stunt or a rehearsed announcement. It was a rare, unguarded moment from someone who usually keeps his cards close, and it hinted that there's more going on with Geezer than anyone realized. Geezer's creative drive. For someone who spent decades defining what heavy metal even sounds like, Geezer Butler speaks about songwriting with a kind of quiet inevitability. He doesn't hype it up, he doesn't tease big plans, he just admits that he never really stopped. Even without a solo album since 2005, the guy still wakes up and plays, scribbles down riffs, and builds ideas the way some people journal. It's almost like a habit he can't shake, a creative muscle that refuses to go numb. And that makes his recent hint even more intriguing. Because if he's been writing this whole time, what exactly has he been holding on to? Fans have been wondering whether he's stockpiled years' worth of riffs and unfinished concepts, especially since his last major release was bundled into a box set back in 2021. And hearing him talk about always playing doesn't sound like someone winding down. It sounds like someone gearing up, quietly, patiently, until the moment feels right. And soon, that moment might finally arrive. Relationships that shaped him. When Geezer talks about the people he built Black Sabbath with, there's a softness in his voice that cuts through the usual mythology around the band. He doesn't describe Ozzy Osbourne or Ronnie James Dio as rock gods or rivals. He talks about them like old friends he grew up with, people he shared ordinary moments with long before the world turned them into icons. He said none of them had egos back then, that it was just a handful of guys creating the music they loved because it felt right. And hearing him say that now, after losing Dio and watching Ozzy fight through health struggles, hits different. These weren't just bandmates. They were pieces of his life that shaped everything he became. Even after all the tension, the lineup changes, the rumors, and the drama that followed Sabbath for decades, Geezer still remembers the core of it all, 4 or 5 friends chasing the same spark. That kind of bond doesn't fade. And it's that emotional weight, that sense of unfinished connection, that seems to pull him back toward the idea of creating again. Because for Geezer, music was never just work. It was the thread tying all of them together. The final Sabbath show, the last time Black Sabbath stood together on a stage, the world saw it as a celebration. A final bow from the architects of heavy metal. But for Geezer, that night carried a different kind of pressure. The farewell show, Back to the Beginning, held in Birmingham, wasn't just a performance. It was the closing chapter of a story he'd lived since he was a teenager. And behind the scenes, he wasn't as calm as he looked. Geezer later admitted that he had nightmares leading up to it, visions of the show going wrong, of something falling apart at the worst possible moment. His heart would race, the anxiety catching him off guard, even after a lifetime of performing. And then there was Ozzy, determined to sing one last time, even if his body was barely letting him. They had an armchair ready on stage so he could sit down between songs, a quiet reminder of how much he'd been fighting just to be there. Geezer said he was shocked when he saw him. Shocked, but not surprised that Ozzy still cracked jokes, still tried to lift everyone's spirits, still wanted to give the fans everything he had left. None of them knew it would be the final moment before everything changed, before the plans they'd made for Christmas, for reminiscing, for reconnecting, would disappear almost overnight. That performance wasn't just the end of Sabbath. It was the last time Geezer stood beside his oldest friend under the lights. And that kind of ending stays with you. Retirement versus reinvention. For years, Geezer Butler made it sound like he was done with the grind of the music world. Not the creativity, that part never left him, but the touring, the constant travel, the pressure of performing night after night. He's talked openly about how the road doesn't feel the same anymore, how the spark that kept him chasing stages across the world has cooled. And for a while, fans took that as a sign that Geezer had quietly stepped away, content to leave his legacy untouched. But the more he speaks, the more that picture starts to shift. Because even as he's stepped back from the spotlight, he hasn't stepped away from the one thing that defines him: making music. He still picks up his bass every day. He still writes. He still experiments. The desire to create didn't retire just because the touring did. And that's where things get interesting, because someone who truly wants to walk away doesn't keep stockpiling ideas. They don't keep practicing. They don't keep that creative engine running unless they're waiting for the right moment to use it. So while Geezer may have closed the door on the exhausting side of the industry, he's quietly opening another one. A lane where he can shape the music on his own terms, without the weight of schedules, expectations, or endless travel. And that shift, from retirement to reinvention, might be the clearest sign yet that something new is brewing. What could new music look like? When Geezer Butler hints that he's always writing, it opens a door to a world of possibilities, and none of them feel small. He hasn't released a full solo album since Homework back in 2005.
Pardon my depression.
Which means he's had nearly 2 decades to gather riffs, melodies, and ideas that never saw the light of day. Fans have been whispering for years about what he might be holding on to, and his recent comments only fueled that buzz. But the truth is, even Geezer seems unsure of what form his next chapter might take, and that's what makes it so intriguing. There's a real chance it could be a studio-only project, something crafted quietly at home, away from the noise. Maybe a set of darker, moodier tracks that echo the spirit of early Sabbath. Or maybe he leans into the more experimental side he's shown in past solo work, blending heavy bass lines with atmospheric textures he never had room to explore in a band setting. Then there's the other possibility, the one fans whisper about but know better than to expect: collaboration. Nothing massive or world tour sized, but a small project with a familiar voice or a rising artist who grew up idolizing him. Nothing is confirmed, and Geezer hasn't promised anything, but the way he talks, it doesn't sound like a man clearing out old ideas. It sounds like someone shaping something new, piece by piece. Rumors and speculation are already floating around online, fans wondering if he's secretly been recording, if he's sitting on an album's worth of material, or if he's planning something more intimate as a tribute to the people he's lost. None of it is confirmed, but the interest is real, and so is the possibility. Because when a musician like Geezer keeps writing in silence, it usually means one thing: he's not finished saying what he needs to say. And whatever it ends up being, it's likely to carry the weight of everything he's lived through: loss, legacy, and the kind of experience only a lifetime in metal can carve into someone's soul. Geezer Butler didn't stand on a stage or call a press conference to announce some grand return. He simply let a few quiet words slip out in a moment that felt almost accidental. Yet those words landed harder than any official statement ever could. Because when someone who's shaped the very foundation of heavy metal says he's always writing and always playing, it's not noise, it's a signal. A reminder that the fire that built Black Sabbath hasn't gone out, even if the spotlight has dimmed. After losing old friends, seeing the final chapter of Sabbath close, and stepping away from the chaos of touring, most musicians would choose silence. But Geezer isn't drifting into the background. He's listening, thinking, creating, maybe even preparing. And if he decides to share what he's been working on, it won't just be another release. It'll be a piece of everything he's carried. The memories, the grief, the loyalty, and the stories he's never told. So the real question now isn't if he's making something new. It's what shape that creation will take, and whether this quiet hint is the first step toward one last chapter from a man who's already changed music forever. Whatever happens next, one thing is clear: Geezer Butler still has something to say. And when he finally chooses to say it, the whole metal world will be listening.